So here's kind of how this works. The football team goes through a rough stretch. Sometimes it's just a rough game, and everyone gets upset about it. In most cases, rightly so. Then everyone focuses on the offense. And why can't they score? And why aren't they getting points? And why don't they have a touchdown on the first drive of any game all season long? And something quarterback and something coordinator and something running back. And everyone else, meaning the people on the inside, focus, and I think fairly so, on the defense. Good afternoon to you. Good Friday afternoon. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is the new Double Shot Show. It comes your way every weekday afternoon, and I appreciate having you here. It's Steelers versus Bengals tomorrow at Acrisure Stadium, and it still seems like even after 3 straight losses and 90, count them, 90 points against in those losses, that it's just being taken for granted that Joe Burrow is going to put up a zillion more points. It's just being presumed. I'm not going to lie. I'm guilty of it myself. I keep thinking to myself and sometimes blurting out loud that the Steelers are going to have to put up 40 again because they had to put up 40 last time. In Cincinnati, the Steelers won that game 44-38. And the reaction to that one, if I recall correctly, was borderline giddy. Hey, look at us. They've got a good quarterback. We've got a good quarterback too. This is fun. This is great. This is what it must be like to be among the elite. No, there is no circumstance in which the Steelers should be giving up 38 points to anyone, respectfully including the Bengals, and think, all right, that was a positive. That was a step forward. Listen to this. Last 3 games, 90 points. They've been outscored. The Steelers have 90-40. Before that, they played the Browns. Throw that out. Before that was the game in Cincinnati. Before that, they played the Browns. Throw that out. So before that, the Steelers beat the Ravens 18-16. And what that tells me is that it's been nearly 2 months since the Steelers defense has lived up to what it thought it should be. Never mind outside expectations. Never mind how they're the highest paid, which is only a true thing because they don't have to pay a quarterback this year. Never mind any of that stuff. That was their last really sound performance as a defense. Mike Tomlin and Terrell Austin and a bunch of the defensive leaders have had to comment in the past week about all of this, the little, how did Tomlin call it? He called it bickering between the defensive guys, when in fact they really were on the same page, pretty much blaming one person for being out of position, et cetera. I'm not bringing that up again. It's kind of old. And Minkah Fitzpatrick was asked about it yesterday as well. This was what he had to say.
And when you got a lot of guys in the room that care about something, we're not all in agreement. So, or whatever, there's gonna be conflict. There's gonna be tension. Everybody has a strong personality. Everybody cares a lot. Everybody gives a lot to this team, to the organization. We got a lot of guys in the room that move that way, and we are seeing the success that we want to see. There's going to be tension, but the important thing is after you have those conflicts and you have those confrontations, is to ask each other what are we going to do differently. You know what I'm saying? Not because of the confrontation, but because of what caused it. You know what I'm saying, or whatever we're talking about. So, conflict, bickering, all that stuff is going to happen in the locker room, whatever sport we're playing. But the important thing is to have a solution as to why.
Okay, so that seems to be the consensus. We talked about it. We've gotten everything out of our system. Like TJ Watt said this week, there's nothing left to talk about. It's just a matter of going out there on the field and doing it. Okay, do that. Have your first solid defensive performance in 2 months. because you've got the people, you've got the players. I firmly believe this. I wasn't the one imagining things when a bunch of them showed up on the Pro Bowl roster yesterday. They have athletes, they have smart guys, they have guys who want to win, they have guys who are competitive. Get it together. There's no asterisk for facing Burrow. When we come back, I'll be joined by Chris Halleck.
At DK Pittsburgh Sports, we take pride in coverage that connects our city's fans to their favorite teams. Now, that connection's stronger than ever. Introducing our all-new state-of-the-art app. Find expert inside reporting and original podcasts. Check live box scores. Track the latest stats. Chat it up with our community of thousands of fans, all in one place. The new app from DK Pittsburgh Sports. Coverage that connects.
All right, joined now, as promised, by Chris Halleck. And Chris, I'm going to go total hypocrite on this because I just made fun of everybody who over-focuses on the offense. And we're going to talk about the offense here because why not? Because there's also a 40 at the end of that being outscored 90-40 thing. Yeah. And these guys aren't getting it done at all. A season low 10 points against the Chiefs. Without focusing on the Bengals and their alleged improvement and all that other stuff, what's it going to take for this team to really get on some kind of, it doesn't have to be a heater. They just need to be decent, don't they?
Yeah. And what they would really need to do, and Arthur Smith said it this week, they need to stop just giving away points, getting down into the red zone and throwing interceptions, just getting possessions in which they have a short field, not doing anything with it. Obviously when you throw an interception in the red zone, like that is actually giving away points. But if you get a short field and you can't move the ball 15 yards to get into Chris Boswell's ridiculous range, that's kind of giving away points too. So they first off, they need to stop giving away points. They've been able to run the ball kind of effectively the last couple of games, but it's not necessarily translated into successful drives. And so I think really it will start with, making sure that you're clean, playing clean football.
This is it. See, you beat me to my own punch here, because when you were saying the stuff about Smith and the turnovers and the takeaways, I'm going to be blunt here. I'm really tired of hearing about them. I'm tired about hearing about loose footballs that they should have pounced on as being some kind of factor. And you know what I'm talking about when I say that. Okay. How about this? How about a first down play that gets you 5 yards? I'd rather see that. I'd rather hear them talking about that than I would about a really bizarre sequence in which, there's 3 guys covering Pat Freiermuth and something allegedly or doesn't happens with George Pickens not running his route. That stuff to me is fluky. Okay. Yeah. Russ running the football down to the 2-yard line and trying to get into the end zone and then fumbling and losing it, as happened a couple of weeks ago. I also don't want to talk about that, because that's not indicative of who he is or who the offense is, for that matter. What is indicative, what I think's actually become their hallmark, is the inability to do a blessed thing in the first half. And the reason for that is they can't just systematically move the football. That's tough to watch, man. And that's what needs to get fixed. And this brings me to my next thing with you, Chris, which is, how does that get fixed if the offensive line's trajectory continues to look like this? If you don't see a steady or even minimal, I think, improvement up front.
So I asked Arthur Smith this week about what's the challenge of play calling when you have Najee out there versus Jalen Warren or even CP out there, Cordell Patterson, and because for me, it's one of two things. It's either the offensive coordinator is just going to call his play regardless of who's out there because he's going to trust that they're going to be able to execute the concept, or he's going to call certain runs that he believes that tailored to the running back strengths. And Arthur Smith's answer, of course, it wasn't a direct answer like the way that
No, it never is.
but it was pointed more toward the latter, that it does seem like that they have plans in place for Najee, plans in place for Warren. And I do think that part of the reason why we're seeing Jaylen Warren have more success is this offensive line is built to run Arthur Smith's system. They're not built to be these maulers up front who are going to allow Najee to run downhill. And I think that's why you're kind of seeing Najee not having the success he's having. Part of it is Najee too, but also I think that they've got to find a way to get him going as well, because right now it's Jalen's going. They've figured that out.
Yep.
But they need to get Najee going too, because Najee can get going. We've seen it happen, and especially we've seen it happen this time of year, the past 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
This year it hasn't happened. They need to get both running backs going, because when they are able to do that, that's whenever they're able to control the clock. And by the way, just as you said, move the football.
Okay, but a lot of what I'm hearing from you here, and I'm just playing devil's advocate here with you now, because I don't disagree with a single thing you said, but a lot of what I'm hearing sounds like hope stuff. Okay, meaning, well, we got to get Najee going. All right. Who's going to do that? Because it's not going to be a change in your line scheme. It's not going to be a change in whether you're zone blocking or not. It's going to be largely because your offensive line will take a step upward. And I'm sorry, I'm not seeing that. I'm not seeing that. I love these guys. I think they're giving it everything they've got. They don't have a straggler among them. Okay, I respect the effort that they're putting in. I respect the communication and the camaraderie they've built up. Mm-hmm. I just don't see a line that's headed upward.
The one thing that I've noticed, especially because I watched back this Chiefs game more often than I probably should have, because it gave me a couple of different headaches watching it, but they blocked really well when they were running the wide zone and outside zone stuff that Arthur Smith likes to call. Mm-hmm. And that's when Jaylen Warren was running. And Jaylen Warren is a good wide zone and outside zone runner. And that's one of the reasons why you saw him rattle off 20 here, 11 there, some chunk runs. When they try to do the stuff in between the tackles where guys are just down blocking, where they're trying more gap stuff, it wasn't working. They were getting out muscled. They were getting outworked. And that's what I'm saying. Like, this is where I think the reason why Najee might not be the long-term fixture here, but that doesn't matter right now. They need to figure that out right now. And whether that's Najee needs to up his game, the offensive line needs to up their game, or maybe it's just screw it. It's not working right now. We got to make Jaylen Warren the number one running back right now, and hope that makes things go right now, because like you said, they need to get going. They need to get going sooner. They need to be able to move the ball and be able. And there was one thing that you said earlier, and the thing that just got me was the throw to getting 5 yards on first down. I remember the first play against the Chiefs, they did that quick out to Pat Fryer,
beautifully
gained 7 yards, but then they couldn't get the first down after that. Like
couldn't get the first down after that. And you're thinking that's exactly what they need to do. And they ended up coming away with still a 3 and out. And that's what I'm getting at here, Chris, more than anything else here. I don't want to see the splash. I don't want to see the spectacular seen as the be-all, end-all of this offense, because it's not going to be in one direction or the other, meaning 50-yard bombs or turnovers. It's got to be the meat and potatoes. This offense was always supposed to be about the meat and potatoes, and it's been anything but, really, from day one, with a couple of exceptions against the New Jersey teams who stink. And that's been it. And to me, that's concerning in the long term. But like you said, the long term doesn't matter right now.
Right.
I will also say on the subject of the line, because you're very fair to point out that they had success in zone blocking and success in making sure that Jaylen had lanes. Where they weren't good is pass blocking. I'm sure you'd agree, especially at the tackles. And this also is just a recurring theme. This is just something that's not getting better. Now, maybe maybe the players they have aren't very good. Maybe they're not being instructed well. Maybe the schemes aren't right. I don't know. We have all off season to get into that stuff. But is there anything that can be done, in your opinion, that can offset this component? Because just dropping back and having these super long extended plays and hoping that your tackles hold their blocks isn't working.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've been calling for it all year, and it's not something that they have to do every single time they drop back to pass, but they need to be able to have a quicker passing game. They need to be able to have these quick hitters, whether it's the in-breaking routes on slants or quick outs, whatever it is. It doesn't all have to be in-breakers, doesn't all have to be outbreakers. It's just something where the Russ is just 3 steps, hitch and throw, 5 steps, hitch and throw. And that's not necessarily Russ's strength. He can do it, and I think there are certain types of plays in which he's comfortable doing that, but they need a little bit more of that. They need to be able to find 6 or 7 plays in the playbook that Russ can point out specifically, and Arthur Smith just say, hey,
boom,
6, 7
that's it.
plays right here, Russ. 3-step pitch and throw, 5-step pitch and throw, whatever it is. Give me 6 or 7 plays. That way they can be in the game plan so that we can get this figured out, so we can get the ball out of your hands. That way sacks aren't a worry at that point.
No, it's not an issue. And neither is the line. And neither is, for example, Trey Hendrickson coming at you this weekend. He doesn't matter if you're getting rid of the ball in 2.3.
Yeah.
Okay. And, it's funny. I think it was the Chiefs game where there was a pass across the middle from Russ real quick to Calvin Austin. You know which one I'm talking about, because I nudged you right away and I said, that up in the press box.
Yeah.
This doesn't strike me as being quantum physics. You don't have to be Bill Walsh II to figure this stuff out.
Right. Yeah, no, you shouldn't. And Arthur Smith has enough of that type of passing game in his playbook in order to get it done. He does.
He does. It's
not
there. We're looking at it.
Yeah, it's not his forte. It's not. He likes to be able to do play action and attack defenses down the field. And by all means, there's a place for that. Absolutely. And yeah, they need to be able to also run the play action. They need to be able to, first off, run the football, and then let Russ cook from under center using play action, because his numbers this year out of that have been very good. But yeah, they do have to have that quick passing game there too. They have to be able to, Russ has to be able to get to the line and be like, okay, I'm seeing cover 3. I know the seam's open. Then, okay, let's hit Pat up the seam, or let's hit Calvin up the seam, whatever it is. We've seen that happen a couple times. Even Ben Skoranek caught one up the seam
he did.
against these Cincinnati Bengals, actually.
Yes, he did.
So
They're available.
Yeah, they're there. Let's see what happens. Now, granted, the last time this team played the Bengals, they looked really good offensively.
Sure they did.
But, it's the AFC North. It's the AFC North. Anything goes, I guess.
I hear you. I appreciate you, Chris. When we come back, J1Q.
Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different. Help prevent gun accidents, misuse, and theft. Keep firearms safe and secure when not in use. For safe storage options, visit projectchildsafe.org.
Time now for J1Q, and for that we head down to Texas.
Hi DK, it's Mike in Dallas. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Here's the question. The Steelers invested in and have the highest payroll on defense of any team in the NFL. Yet the Bills, Chiefs, Ravens, and Lions are all investing in the lower third on defense and are all contenders. Why is the defense not dominant? Is it cultural, coaching, roster selection, scheme, or something else? It sure seems like a suspect strategy given the advantage the offense receives in the league these days. I look forward to your remarks. Thanks for taking the question.
Well, I appreciate that on all counts, Mike. First of all, out of the options that you gave me there, the first one that I would scratch off the list would be roster selection. I think the Steelers have made sound personnel moves on the defensive side of the ball, and not just because they're able to allocate more dollars there, as I mentioned earlier, because you're not paying a quarterback. I think it's also that they have done a good job of putting young players into holes that needed to be filled. Joey Porter is a nice draft pick. Keanu Benton is a nice draft pick. Peyton Wilson as a 4th rounder is a really nice draft pick. All of those guys are part of your starting assembly, and that's good. That's what you want, because you also have some additional energy and freshness and everything else. All right. So if I ask you, Mike, what do you see as the positional or roster hole that this defense has? I'm betting you're going to come back with what everyone would come back with, which is nickelback, dime back. Well, if you ask 32 NFL general managers how they'd feel about a defense that only had the nickelback as the weakness, they would all take it. Okay, all 32 would take it, and happily so. And so I'm not seeing roster as an issue. I'll tell you how I feel about this. This coaching staff, and all the way up to Terrell Austin and Mike Tomlin, made a concentrated decision this past offseason that they weren't going to blitz, that they were just going to be so awesome and fierce up front that they weren't going to have to send more than 5 people, because TJ's going to get back there no matter what. Cam's going to get back there no matter what. And some of that's been well-founded. Okay, they've had games where you said that, wow, that's a difficult thing to beat. And it is, when it's effective and when teams don't scheme specifically against it. But that's what we've seen over the past month or so. We've seen teams specifically set up strategies that are aimed to dilute this, really, I think is the best term for it. You're not going to flat out beat it. The Steelers have still gotten some of their turnovers and takeaways and sacks, but it hasn't been game-changing stuff. That's because if you tell your quarterback, I mean, Patrick Mahomes had a 2.39 second release time against the Steelers. Now, that wasn't an accident. That was his fastest release time, his fastest average release time of the 2024 season. Okay, that's not Andy Reid being a dummy. That's Reid saying, I'm not going to let those guys get to my guy. I'm not letting them, slam Mahomes around. No chance. So one way around that, just like Chris and I were talking about, is related to the Steelers offense. Move the football quickly. Your pass rush doesn't matter at all. Well, if you're the Steelers and you have made this decision and teams have countered it and you don't punch back, then you're just going to keep taking more of it. I feel like, you mentioned the word culture in there, Mike, and I kind of like that, especially if you were referring to the blitz culture, the Blitzburg culture, the Dick LeBeau culture. The Steelers have defanged themselves in a way defensively by removing that as an option. They don't do it hardly at all. They have these 2 super fast inside linebackers that they've added. Patrick Queen through free agency. Wilson, I've already mentioned, through the draft. And they don't utilize them in any forward sense. Everybody is going side to side, back into coverage. And that strikes me as a mistake. And Landon Roberts gets set free every once in a while to be a bit of an attack dog, but that's usually on the other team's running back as opposed to their quarterback. You're facing Joe Burrow. And yeah, he's really, really good, okay? And he's going to beat you if you blitz him. But I'd take my chances at trying something different. The last time you faced him, he put up 38 on you. I'd take my chances on trying something different than what's happened the past 3 weeks, because all 3 of those guys put up an average of 30 on you. And yes, they're all very good. Lamar Jackson is very good. Mahomes is very good. Jalen Hurts is very good. You're going to have to beat quarterbacks who are very good. And your recipe against them so far hasn't worked. But I'm totally talking into the wind here. I appreciate the question. I appreciate everybody who checks out the Double Shot Show. We'll be back with another one of these on Monday.